Update. Am I the a-hole because I call my psycho ex's unrelated child my daughter? Original post. Buckle up. 15 years ago, I was 25 and was finishing my contract, and my then-girlfriend of 3 years, Natalie, was acting increasingly strange. I came back from a 2-month assignment and was prepared to break up with Natalie. She came by and gave me the good news. She was pregnant. I asked how far along she was. She said 5 weeks. So I broke it off with her and told her she needed to do better at math. She refused the breakup and insisted the baby was mine. So I told her the following. 1. Paternity test. And 2. If the child was mine, we can talk about financial support and custody arrangements with lawyers. She refused both and told everyone we both knew that I was a deadbeat for knocking her up and leaving her. I told everyone I was on a 2-month assignment when she conceived, but a few insisted for the sake of decency, I house her and give her limited support. I consulted a lawyer about this mess, and the lawyer made it very, very clear that any overt support I give could be seen as me taking responsibility. So I told these friends that, and most dropped it. Except one guy who again insisted that charity couldn't be used as a legal cudgel like that. I told him if he believes that, he can house her. He agreed to drop it after that. Child was born and not even going to do the whole she didn't look like me because most babies are born with squished faces. And all I saw were the pics she sent me with messages like, Emma wants to know where daddy is and stuff. She still refused to take any paternity tests, but her constant showing up with that baby got to the point where I filed a restraining order. Fun fact, in my state, a permanent restraining order is not, in fact, permanent. It is 2 freaking years long. The only way to get it longer is if there was a violent crime associated. And apparently bugging someone with a baby that's not theirs is not a violent crime. So my life for the last 14 years was me renewing the restraining order every 2 years. Because once it clears, Natalie shows up again with my not child. I did eventually find a nice girl, got married, and now have a 9-year-old son, Henry. My wife Kim is well aware of Natalie and Emma. When the cycle begins again, I always say the same thing. 1. Paternity test. 2. Once paternity is proven, I will take custody and get financial support set up. Natalie always refuses and says both are insulting. Recently, the cycle started again, and this time Emma showed up first. She approached my son during a school event, a visit to the zoo, and said, "Hi, I'm your big sister Emma." Henry knows about stranger danger and ran away to a teacher. I had to have a very, very painful talk to the teachers and parents that were at the event about my relationship with Emma and Natalie, and how Emma was never my daughter. I even called her my daughter once or twice in a conversation. After the group disbanded, one of the mothers confronted me and said that while Natalie was in the wrong telling this poor child I was her father, calling her my daughter was mocking the situation. I kind of get where she's coming from, just I can't help this child. And the honest truth is playing light of the 2-year cycles is the closest I can get to finding peace in a situation. Now for the top comments before reading the update. You could get a court-ordered DNA test. Her claims are slanderous. You could take her to court to prove paternity. Natalie has long since stopped calling me out for being a deadbeat online. She prefers to show up in person, asking if I want to meet our daughter. The last time the cops confronted her about this, she claims that she only wanted me to act as a paternal father figure to her child. It really depends on the cops that show up. Wishing you best of luck. She seems unhinged. Absolutely this. Emma just so happened to be at the same zoo as Henry. At the exact same time, was able to recognize him on sight, and thought it was perfectly okay to strike up a conversation with him? I'd be screaming from the rooftops that mommy stalker is raising an otter stalker. Going after Opie is one messed up thing because he's an adult, but now mothers/daughters set their focus on a 9-year-old boy. Not a-hole. I can understand why someone would think that this is callous, but it's your business and you've every right to use humor to try to deal with it. Don't say that to Emma, considering that she believes your dad. That would be pretty rude. Now, the burning question. How did she find Henry while he was on a field trip? We suspect Natalie befriended a mom at the school and got a class schedule, then dropped Emma off at the zoo to be with her brother. Since we are unrelated, I have no idea what school Emma goes to, or who Natalie's friends are. We are being very reactive to the situation, but because there are children involved, my lawyer said that that's the best we can do, and any type of investigation into Natalie beyond where to send legal paperwork could make it seem like mutual contact and hurt any future restraining orders. Go to court and sue her to establish paternity. Instead of constantly having to renew the restraining order, you'll have it in writing that you're not the dad, and Emma is old enough to then know that her mom has been lying to her. Not the a-hole. At some point, it becomes draining, and a little girl is going to need some serious therapy after everything is said and done. Why don't you go to the courthouse and make her do one, so it can come to an end? Because Natalie does not consent to it, and she said she's not seeking any sort of court-ordered support, so the court just shrugs and says, get a protective order. Edit. To answer the repeated question, in my state, the mother has to start the petition for the father to be established and a test to start. There is no instance where a father can start the petition. There was a chance to do this when Emma was born, but the window was exactly 1 month, and I was much too focused on a restraining order, not thinking the paternity angle would bite me in the butt. One last time, to everyone saying, just ask for custody. That'll force DNA test. Literally can't be done. Been through this enough with a lawyer and have consulted with other lawyers. There are laws protecting children, and a lot of them exist for good reason. I'll explain it the way my lawyer explained it. Imagine there's a woman that ran from an abusive ex. She finds out after she escaped that she's pregnant. She gives birth, never puts the ex on a birth certificate, never tries to file for support because she wants to get as far away from him as possible. He finds out years later and tries to rope her back in using the child as leverage. She can just say no, and the state has to let it go. There is, however, a provision that if the father was involved enough to know when the birth was, that he could submit his DNA to the state within 31 days of birth as a potential father. But that time has long passed. The laws designed this way on purpose. In the eyes of the family court, I am a random person, and I was never claimed to Emma. If you think the state wants all children to be claimed by fathers and will gladly submit any DNA test whenever any potential father shows up, find a random single mom, call the family court, and say you want to claim her child. I am tired of everyone acting like all I need to do is fill out one sheet of paper and this nightmare would end. Please, just call a lawyer for a free consultation or post on legal advice and ask them. It doesn't work that way. Now for the update. Got off the phone with my attorney. We have a preliminary hearing on the new restraining order this week. We will most likely be issued a temporary restraining order, and then after that, another hearing for the permanent restraining order. CPS is investigating Natalie and Emma's living situation. The teacher's report held a lot of weight, and my lawyer thinks that this might actually be a way to end the madness now. In family court, for minors, there exists something that's like a temporary, court-appointed guardian. I think the term is guardian ad litem, who is only a guardian for legal purposes and procedures and decisions of such, including for medical. If the family court appoints such for Emma, we can ask this temporary guardian for the DNA test. Get this put to ground. The madness might actually have an ending in sight. Adding here, I feel like I need to explain the relationship I had with Natalie all those years ago. When I got back from my 2-month assignment, I was already dead set on breaking up with her. Her, "oh wait, I'm pregnant," was never going to make me marry her. In fact, I doubted she was pregnant for several weeks. The last year of our relationship, several red flags appeared in her behavior, ranging from demanding I check in with her while at work, only hang out with friends with her present, extreme bouts of jealousy if I ever seemed too friendly with women, including waitresses. I was in a line of work that demanded me being away for long stints, which she hated, but also kept me out of her reach for long periods of time. I think it was halfway through that last year I realized that when I was away, I did not miss her. In fact, I was relieved to plop into a cot and fall asleep after long hours of work without thinking about her. When the pregnancy turned out to be real, I made it clear that with a paternity test, I would pay support, split custody, and be a co-parent. And nothing more. She wanted me to be her husband, no questions asked. No test, just pure blind faith and devotion to her and the child. The test she insisted was insulting. There was never going to be a relationship, and there was no relationship to salvage with Natalie. On the advice of the first attorney I hired, the deal was no test, no contact. That poor girl, she'll grow up either believing OP to be a deadbeat dad, Or she'll grow up knowing the truth and knowing that her mom is trying to game the system and get money from a guy that is not the father of her child. Either way, she's going to have a lot of stuff to work out in therapy one day. Frankly, I can't believe OP does not have any legal recourse to force a paternity test. You'd think there'd be one judge who was so annoyed with the constant restraining orders that he would have ordered a paternity test to rid the court system of this BS. Also, that mom probably has a serious mental health struggle. She's kept this going for 15 years. She only has to win a concession once to get child support garnished and start getting his wages garnished. That's why she's doing it. She thinks she'll get a payout for back child support and other benefits of his military pay and pension, insurance, etc. I'm surprised you can't sue her for harassment or potential defamation. Sounds like she's now putting your actual child at risk as well as escalating overall. Hopefully she doesn't start resorting to more dangerous tactics, but you may want to look into further protections if possible. This bit of harassment with a CPS reported a new restraining order should, if we are lucky, be the kill shot we need. Last story. Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter to keep her Father's Day gift to herself because she hid her mom's affair from me for months? Original post. My ex-wife, 40 female, and I, 41 male, have been divorced for a year now because she had an affair. She herself confessed to her affair a year later and moved in with her affair partner, who she's also now married to. I was pretty distraught with the whole thing. We also have a daughter, 17 female. My daughter knew about the affair, but she told me she hid it from me because she didn't want to break up the family. It really hurt me that she hid it from me for so long, but I moved on. My daughter still apologizes for it, but I've told her it's alright. My daughter today gave me a Father's Day gift, which was a handwritten letter and a gift. However, I was in no mood for gifts, so I told her to keep it to herself. My daughter seemed a bit shocked and she went to her room, and I think she was crying as she went to her room. Was I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Yes, in my opinion. You say you told her it's alright. You say you moved on. How do your actions live up to those words? At least be honest with yourself and then her. Either move on or don't, but don't say everything's alright and then not accept a gift from your daughter. Plus, maybe factor in she's a kid and in a tough spot between her parents when you make some of these evaluations. You're the a-hole. Your child was placed in an impossible situation by your wife. Stop treating her like your equal. You're not. You're supposed to be the adult here. She was 16, and she didn't do it so she can have a better new dad, but because she wanted to keep her family together. There are families like mine, where divorce is some kind of relief for the children. And there are those like yours, OP, where nobody beside your ex wanted a breakup. Stop acting as if your daughter were the guilty party. It's not her fault. I mean, from the limited info you give here in your post, you sound like the a-hole. You told her it's alright. If it's not alright, then why the F are you telling her it is? Also, is it your daughter's job to save your marriage? That's a lot of pressure to put on your daughter. I'm not sure you're fully aware of everything she may have had on the line, and you're still holding it against her? But yeah, don't say it's okay if it's not okay. Imagine if she had said something, OP's wife would be blaming her for breaking up the family. This was a no-win situation. Poor baby was literally put in an impossible situation. There's literally nothing she could have done. Kids put a lot of responsibility on themselves even at a young age. I've had third graders tell me that they blame themselves for their parents' issues. They've broken down crying when I've told them that they're not to blame for adult problems. It's completely out of their control, and it's not their responsibility. Kids internalize a lot of these issues. What they did was confirm to her that she was part of the problem, when she literally wasn't. OP is absolutely the a-hole. Now for the update. Just wanted to provide a quick update. I did feel guilty after rejecting my daughter's gift yesterday, and after reading a few comments, it confirmed that I was an a-hole. I went to her room yesterday and apologized for everything. It really hurt me that I made her cry that much. I told her that I didn't mean it, and we had a chat. I got the gift, and the letter was really sweet and heartfelt, and I thanked her. I felt really touched after reading it, and I will preserve it forever. For the rest of the day, I took her out on a shopping trip, and then in the evening, we went to theaters to watch a movie. She seemed very happy. At night, we had one more serious chat where I told her it wasn't her fault at all. She said she still feels very guilty about hiding the whole affair from me, because even though she hated her mom for the affair, She was worried about exposing the affair because of how the whole family would fall apart. I told her that she shouldn't feel guilty about anything, and it's not her fault at all, and it's only her mom's fault. We then talked a bit about her mom, and she agreed that if there's one thing she learned from the entire thing, it's not to emulate her mom when she's an adult. I agreed, and also told her it was unfortunate that she got such a mom. I told her we both need individual therapy to deal with the divorce and her mom's selfish actions, and my daughter was open to it. So we will start looking for a therapist soon. A good person realizes their faults, looks to atone, and is always trying to better themselves. Exactly. Not only did he set things right with his daughter, but he set another good example of how to deal with things like accountability, communication, and reconciliation. Gold star. I was in a similar situation as a kid and found my dad cheating. Your daughter was in a no-win situation, and that's the kind of thing that's hard for an adult to deal with, let alone a kid. I'm glad you made up with your daughter. That was definitely the right thing to do. The only thing I will say is please don't poison your daughter against her mom. You were angry with her, and have every right to be. But her mom wronged you, not her. Please be the bigger person in this situation, and don't encourage a deteriorating relationship between a mom and her daughter. I hated my dad, and then he died when I was a teenager. I'm in my late 30s and still have to deal with not only his death, but our complicated relationship that was never resolved. She only has one mom, and we only have one life. Who knows what the future holds? So long as she's a good parent, your daughter needs her as well as you. I agree on not poisoning a daughter against her mother, but pretending that having an affair isn't also wronging your child is naive. If you have an affair, you're harming your child. No way around it. It breaks up families. Totally agree with everything else, but the mom did wrong the kid when she directly involved her in the affair, enough for the kid to know it was happening. We don't know how the daughter found out about the affair though. I found out from snooping and looking into things I had no business with. I was a kid, so I wouldn't necessarily say it was my fault. But had I not been snooping, I would have never known about my dad's mistress. He didn't involve me in any way. If she wasn't cheating, there would have been nothing to find. Her actions, regardless of her intentions, directly resulted in the fear and hurt and guilt the daughter experienced.